Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sanjeev Gupta. I'm one of the pain consultant and I'm going to discuss about the 1995 pension scheme, partial retirement based on my experience. Disclaimers, I'm not an expert, but I will discuss based on my experience, and please visit the NHSBSA website for more details, and also please discuss your personal circumstances with your financial advisor before you take any decision about partial retirement for the 1995 scheme. And I should say that I will not be responsible for any financial gain or any loss. So you should sort of discuss with the financial advisor. This is just a guide and a start for you to think about it. So why am I doing this presentation? Most of us think that understanding pension rules is complex and beyond our capacity, but this may not be the case. And during the course of this presentation, I'll discuss few things which will give you confidence, in my opinion, to start thinking about your pension and planning it to optimize what you can get out of it. On some occasions, one can save thousands of pounds by understanding the pension scheme. One has to start planning for partial retirement for the 1995 scheme at least 2 to 5 years in advance to make sure that you can optimize your benefits. There are some simple steps that you can take to maximize your final salary for the 1995 partial retirement pension, and we will discuss some of them during the course of this presentation. Retirement age for the 1995 scheme, the pension retirement age is 60 as compared to 65 for the 2008 and 67 or the state pension age for the 2015 scheme. And the 1995 scheme, actually the 1995 scheme is a final salary scheme at the time of retirement. So when you're going to retire at that time, what your final salary is, the best of the last 3 years is what constitutes your final salary for the 1995 scheme, although the scheme has ended in April 2022. The final salary, as I said, is the best of the last 3 years, equivalent to 10 PA, even if you're part-time. Say, for example, if you're working 5 sessions a week, then you'll accumulate 0.5 years. But when it comes to the pension, it is still calculated, the final salary is calculated to 10 PAs. The final salary is the salary at the time of retirement, not the salary in the year ending March 2022, when the final salary scheme ended, the 1995 scheme ended. And the final salary link is maintained up to the point of partial retirement, provided you have not had any significant breaks in contribution to the pension scheme. I think it's about 5 years, should not have had more than 5 years, but I stand to be corrected. Please discuss with the financial advisor and NHSBSA about that. As I've already said, the 2008 pension scheme, the pension retirement age is 65, and there's no automatic tax-free lump sum, but it's calculated in a slightly different way. 2015 retirement age is state pension age, currently 67, and there's no automatic tax-free lump sum, but again, it's calculated in a slightly different way. You need to discuss with the financial advisor. Who is eligible for partial retirement for the 1995 scheme? The partial retirement or the drawdown is available for all the 3 schemes, but the retirement age for the 1995 scheme is 60. So that's the main advantage, I think, for the 1995 scheme who are nearing 60. The criteria for partial retirement is one should be aged more than 55 years. One should be an active member of the pension scheme. So if you, for some reason, you come out of the scheme, please join the scheme, even if it's a month or 2 before the date of the retirement. You should be a current sort of a member of the pension scheme. Discuss with the pension officer of your hospital, and they should be able to guide you as well. One should be able to reduce the pensionable pay by 10% for 12 months or so after taking retirement. The main advantage, what I feel, is of the partial retirement for the 1995 scheme is you're not truly retiring. So you maintain your employment contract as compared to retire and return, where you have a breach in contract, so you may or may not get back your permanent contract. So the main advantages are that you maintain your permanent contract with the partial retirement scheme, you get your pension, which is index linked, so it will rise by CPI every year once you take it, and also you get the tax-free lump sum, which can be invested based on what your financial advisor feels or you feel together with your financial advisor. How is the pension and tax-free lump sum calculated for the 1995 pension scheme? I will discuss a few things here. The way it's calculated is number of years of service divided by 80 times final salary. That gives you an annual pension. And 3 times the annual pension is your tax-free lump sum. I'll discuss this in greater detail a little later. What constitutes the final salary? Best of the last 3 years from the date of your retirement, calculated to 10 PA, even if you're part-time, provided that you have not had any significant breaks in your contribution to the 1995 scheme or the pension scheme. For example, if the retirement date is 1st October 2024, then it is best of the last 3 years, that is 1st October 2023 to 30th September 2024, or going back 2 further years. The best of the last 3 years is counted as the final salary. What constitutes the final salary? It's, as I said, even if you're working part-time, it's equivalent to 10 PA, basic pay plus on-call supplements plus pensionable CE awards plus pensionable responsibility additional allowance, or anything that else that is pensionable is calculated as your final salary. This slide discusses about maximizing or optimizing your final salary for the 1995 scheme. Yeah, and it also discusses the impact of the NHS fleet car and other salary sacrifice scheme on your annual pension and tax-free lump sum. Mind you, it doesn't only affect the annual pension, but also the tax-free lump sum as well. So in this first example, I've taken the final salary as £50,000. So the number of years, as I said, we've taken 30 years as a sample here. So 30 divided by 80, 80 is a constant factor, times your final salary, that is 50K. So 30 divided by 80 times 50,000 gives you an annual pension of £18,750. So that's what you're going to get every year following partial retirement. Now the tax-free lump sum is 3 times the annual pension. So 18,750 times 3. So your tax-free lump sum will be 56,250. Now let us see what impact having a NHS fleet car or any salary sacrifice scheme can have on the final salary. Say for example, you've taken a car and other salary sacrifice scheme like a car park or anything like that, or childcare voucher. I think that's also, if you're part of the childcare scheme within the hospital, that's also a salary sacrifice scheme. But mind you, at the age, you may or may not have that. So imagine that's 5,000. So the final salary decreases from 50,000 minus 5,000 to 45,000. So now the pension is 30 divided by 80. The number of years remains constant, multiplied by 45,000 because of the salary sacrifice scheme 5,000. So the pension, annual pension will be 16,875. So the annual pension has decreased by about 1,875 every year for the rest of your life. And there is a reduction in the tax-free lump sum, that is 1,875 times 3. So your tax-free lump sum has reduced by 5,625. Mind you, this is tax-free lump sum that's reduced. So if, for example, you decide to take partial retirement for whatever reason, and you still have the NHS fleet car and you're planning for it, then I think you should discuss with the NHS fleet car people and ask them what the penalties are if I return the car, and then do the calculations and see if it's in your benefit, and then decide. Of course, you have to discuss with your financial advisor. I'm just giving you some hints so that you can start the process while you're consulting and taking advice from others. Important thing which I also discovered not very long ago is that if you wish, you can get the NHS fleet car after you have taken the 1995 pension, as the 2015 pension scheme, which is currently running, is not a final salary scheme, but of course it will decrease your pension contribution because you'll be contributing less, and obviously that will have an impact. But again, you will have to decide, but I thought I should mention this to you because I believe NHS fleet car scheme is a reasonably good scheme. How can we increase the tax-free lump sum? That's another thing one has to understand. Now we've seen that how to optimize our final salary for the 1995 scheme partial retirement. Now increasing the tax-free lump sum is also equally important to see if that suits you. Of course, not everybody will be up for it. So the eligible maximum tax-free lump sum is the lower of the annual pension amount times 5.36. That is a constant factor. So it's the lower of the 3, what I'm going to say now. It is the lower of the annual pension times 5.36 or 268,275,000. This figure came because in the past there was something called the annual lifetime allowance of 1,073,100 pounds. So this is 25% of that actually, even though the lifetime allowance has been taken out, but that's the maximum one can take. That's capped to that. Or 25% of protected lifetime allowance, if applicable. Again, you need to find that out with the help of a financial advisor or contact the NHSBSA regarding this. Please discuss with your financial advisor and the NHSBSA if you have a lifetime allowance protection. If you take the annual pension amount times 5.36 as an example here in this case, now the maximum allowable tax-free lump sum will be 18,000. You see that here, 18,750. I'm taking this as without the salary sacrifice scheme, 18,750 times 5.36. So maximum allowed tax-free lump sum is 100,500. That's what one can gain. And for sacrificing £1 of annual pension from the 18,750 every year, you will get £12 tax-free lump sum up to a maximum of 100,500. However, we're already getting 56,250. You can see here 18,750 times 3, 56,250 as tax-free lump sum. So additional eligibility of tax-free lump sum is 44,250. That is 100,500. You can see here minus what you're already getting automatic tax-free lump sum. So that comes to 44,250. So to get additional up to 44,250 tax-free lump sum, one has to sacrifice 44,250 divided by 12, that is 4,425 pounds of annual pension every year you have to sacrifice once you decide that you want to take maximum tax-free lump sum. If you don't want the maximum, you can tailor it to your needs as well. There is provision for that, but do discuss with your financial advisor. Now, in the next 2 slides, I'm going to discuss about how to optimize your final salary and what can be the impact of reduced final salary on your annual pension as well as tax-free lump sum. And then I'll also discuss about how to increase your tax-free lump sum if you're interested in doing so. So the first example is with a salary of £100,000. The way the pension is calculated is number of years of service. I've taken 30 years as an example. It could be 25, 20, or 40. That's the maximum for the 1995 scheme. So keep in mind that's the figure that is included here. Divided by 80. 80 is a constant figure because of the way the pension accumulates, times the final salary. Here we are taken as 100K. So 30 number of years of service divided by 80 times 100,000 gives you 37,500. That's your annual pension. And the tax-free lump sum is 3 times the annual pension, that is 112,500. So one has to understand this, and I don't think it's very difficult to understand. If you remember this, then at least you know what your pension is likely to be and what is your tax-free lump sum. Now let us see what the impact of salary sacrifice scheme can have on your pension as well as the tax-free lump sum. So say for example you have a big car and the salary sacrifice scheme totals to £8,000. So your final salary will decrease by £8,000 to 92,000 from 100,000. So that's your final salary now. So if you calculate again 30 years divided by 80 times 92 instead of 100,000, that gives you a figure of 34,500. So your annual pension for the rest of the life has decreased by 3,000 every year. And your tax-free lump sum times 3,000 times 3 decreases by £9,000 when you have a salary sacrifice scheme reducing your final salary. Mind you, you don't need to start giving your an NHS card back right now. It is at the time of retirement. You need to plan. You need to plan for 2 to 5 years before you start thinking about retirement or before you take the retirement, so that you can plan all these things. Even if you have, say, you're 59 and you want to take partial retirement at 60, you still have 1 year. You can negotiate with NHS Fleet, and if there's 1 more year left on the car, you can talk to them, see what the penalty is, and put your figures in this particular sort of the calculations and see how much you're going to gain by returning or not returning, and then you decide in consultation with the financial advisor what is best for you. So if you wished, you can get back your NHS Fleet car after you retired from the 1995 pension scheme, because the 2015 scheme is not a final salary scheme. Again, there are advantages and disadvantages of this, so you have to take a decision based on what you get advice from the financial advisor. So having discussed how the pension is calculated, how the tax-free lump sum can be calculated, and the impact of both the pension and the tax-free lump sum on salary sacrifice scheme, let us see how we can optimize or increase the tax-free lump sum if you wish to. You might not wish to, but if you wish to, at least you are aware of it. Now, the way it's calculated is eligible maximum tax-free lump sum is the lower of the three, that is annual pension times 5.36. 5.36 is just a figure that's used, or 268,275. This figure came from the past, like as you're aware, there is no cap on the lifetime allowance now, but in the past the lifetime allowance was capped at £1,073,100. So 25% of that was 268,275. So currently the tax-free lump sum is capped at that, or 25% of the protected lifetime allowance if one has this. As you know, the lifetime allowance when it existed was decreased gradually up to 1,073,100. But when it was being decreased gradually, some people had the opportunity to protect their lifetime allowance. If that's the case, if somebody has lifetime allowance protection, then they should discuss with a financial advisor as well as the NHSBSA and get further guidance about it. Now, if I take the example of annual pension amount times 5.36 as the maximum lump sum, that gives us a figure of 37,500. That was your annual pension times 5.36. That is a factor. So you can get a maximum of 201,000 tax-free lump sum, provided your final salary was 100K. Yeah. So that's your maximum taxable lump sum. But you're already getting 112,500 as the tax-free lump sum. So in addition to the 112,500, now you're eligible for another 88,750 additional tax-free lump sum. That is 201,000 minus 112, what you're already getting, gives you 88,750 as the additional tax-free lump sum. For sacrificing every £1 annual allowance, annual pension for the rest of your life, you get £12 tax-free lump sum up to a maximum of £201,000, because that's what you are eligible for. However, you've already taken a 112,000. So the additional tax-free lump sum is going to be 88,750. So if you want to get 88,750 as tax-free lump sum, then you have to sacrifice 88,750 divided by 12, 7,395 of your annual pension for the rest of your life. So your pension amount will decrease from 37,500 to roughly around 30,000 for the rest of your life if you wanted the maximum tax-free lump sum of 201,000 instead of the 112,500. Mind you, when you take the maximum lump sum and reduce your tax-free the annual pension, if it comes to spouse allowance, if anything happens to us, or the other way around, this is still calculated as the pension, not the reduced one, but the 37,500. So your spouse will get 50% of that, if I'm correct, not the reduced pension following taking the maximum tax-free lump sum. Please discuss with your financial advisor about that. That was just a rider I wanted to mention. I remembered while I was present. Now let me take another example with a final salary of £150,000. So the number of years of service I've taken as 30. As I said, it can be 25, 20, 30, or 40. You can decide that figure to be divided by 80. That's the factor that's used based on how the pension accumulates, times the final salary. 30 divided by 80 times 150 gives you 56,250 as the annual pension for the rest of your life. 3 times 56 to 50 is your tax-free lump sum. That's 168,750, which you're eligible to automatically. Impact of salary sacrifice scheme. Imagine that's £10,000. So your salary decreases by 10,000. That's 140,000 now. So your pension amount will decrease slightly. 30 divided by 80 times 140, gives you 52,500. So there is a total reduction of your pension for the rest of your life by about 3,750 every year, and your tax-free lump sum will decrease by 3 times that, so 11,250. That's a decrease in your tax-free lump sum with the salary sacrifice scheme I have said here, considering that 10K has been decreased. That can be variable. You can put any figure you want there depending upon your circumstances. As I said already, if you wish to get back to the salary sacrifice scheme once you've taken the 1995 pension scheme, because the 2015 scheme is not a final salary scheme, you can do so in consultation with the NHSBSA and the financial advisor. Now, increasing your tax-free lump sum, this will be a little interesting in this case. So eligible maximum tax-free lump sum is lower of the three, that is annual pension times 5.36 or 268,275 or 25% of the protected lifetime allowance if that is eligible. But for our sake, I'm taking the annual pension times 5.36 as an example, which will give you 301,500. But remember, the maximum allowable, unless you have lifetime protection, lifetime allowance protection, is 268,275 only, and I've said how it was arrived at. So additional tax-free amount available to one is 268,275 minus 168,500 because you're already getting that. So additional availability is 99,525. So for every £1 annual pension you sacrifice for the rest of your life, you can get 12 pounds tax-free lump sum up to a maximum of 268,275. However, you're already getting 168. So additional tax-free lump sum available is 99,525 divided by 12, 8,294. So if you sacrifice 8,294 of your annual pension for the rest of your life, you can get additional 99,525 as tax-free allowance. So to get a maximum tax-free allowance of 268,275, your annual pension for the rest of your life will decrease to around 48,000 or so. Now, I stand to be corrected, but I'm reasonably sure that you can vary this figure. You need not take this and take the tax-free lump sum and have your pension as it is, or you may wish to take, instead of 99,000, you can take 40,000 or 50,000 or 20,000 or 10,000, whatever you decide, and proportionately your pension will decrease divided by the 12 figure, a factor 12. So I hope that's clear how to calculate the pension, tax-free allowance, impact of salary sacrifice scheme, and how to calculate the maximum tax-free lump sum one can take if you wish to. Should we draw the 1995 pension at all at the age of 60? Some are of the opinion that there is no point in taking partial retirement for 1995 scheme when you are still working, as this is added to the income and there is tax liability of between 40 and 60% depending upon your annual income. It can be argued that you may be losing out if you do not draw your 1995 pension scheme at least until the 2015 year when you are 60, even if this means paying 40 to 60% tax on the pension amount, because if you don't take that, you will be losing probably 40 to 60% of that amount which you are eligible to at the age of 60 for the 1995 scheme, not for the 2015 and the 2008 scheme, because the retirement age is different. And not only that, once you draw pension, the pension amount increases. It is index linked, so it increases by CPI every year. That's one. And also you're getting lump sum which may be invested based on what your financial advisor advises. So these are my thoughts. Again, you have to discuss with your financial advisor and decide what's best for you. My presentation is just a start for you to start thinking and understanding that it's not as difficult as you think. Two examples I gave you has a wealth of information. You can put the figures that's appropriate for you. Look at the ESR, you'll get some figures there, and look at your pay slip, you'll get some figures there as well, and you can start putting that into the calculations I showed you to calculate what you can get. There is also a suggestion from my memory. I read this. If somebody has moved from 1995 to 2008 pension scheme, and if they wish to go back to the from 2008 to the 1995 scheme, final salary scheme, there is provision for that now since the partial retirement is introduced for the 1995 scheme. But do discuss about this. I'm not 100% sure about this. Please discuss with your financial advisor and NHSBSA and see if that is any advantageous to you. So when to consider delaying partial retirement after the age of 60? Because after the age of 60, as I said, you are eligible for an amount and you're losing that in a way. But sometimes it might be important to play this right, because if your salary is suddenly increasing significantly at the age of 60 and slightly beyond that, it might be appropriate to just wait for that increase to happen and get it into your final salary. If you have had recent increment due to pay progression, as this can increase your final pensionable salary. If you've had recent substantial pay award due to inflation, contract negotiations, etc., this can increase your final pensionable salary. Mind you, recently there has been some changes to the contractual pay rise, and also the DDRB, and an increase in the pay which took effect recently. So just be mindful of that. So if something is going to increase, your final salary is going to increase dramatically at the age of 60, 61, around that time, just be aware of this and see if you need to wait a few months. I had one of my friend who did not know much about this, and when he decided, he was still having his NHS fleet car, and obviously he was not yet 60 but very close to 60, so he returned his car, optimized his final salary. He just delayed his retirement to just beyond 60, just I think 2, 3 or 4 months beyond 60, and that optimized his final salary, and that helped him to optimize the benefits of the 1995 scheme. Basically, you can put the figures in the calculations I showed you, what will happen if you delay slightly, and what you're going to gain, what you're going to lose. Again, I can discuss with the financial advisor, as I've told you already, and then decide what's best for you. McCloud judgment allows us to decide at the time of retirement if we want to take the 1995 pension until 2015 or until 2022 April. That you have to decide based on the advice of my financial advisor to see what's best for you. Partial retirement rights and responsibilities. This is the email from the NHSBSA Pension Employers Dynamics NHS on in October 2023. An employer can refuse to grant partial retirement on grounds of member reducing hours/pay if they are not able to accommodate the 10% decrease in pensionable pay. That's what it says. If the employer can accommodate the change in pay hours, that is the 10% decrease in pensionable pay, then it is the member's right to be able to decide whether they want to take partial retirement or not, not the employer's. Now, some hospitals are offering a pensionable and a non-pensionable contract to accommodate this 10% reduction without any decrease in the workload or the total number of hours they work. Again, you have to discuss with your employer regarding this. There's a wealth of information on the NHSBSA website. If you go to the website and click Members Hub, you get a lot of information about partial retirement. You can read that. Then if you go to the members event down below, lots of events that are quite relevant to individuals regarding the different pension schemes, the partial retirement, and there's opportunity to ask questions during the presentations. So if you have any particular doubts, particularly relating to your circumstances, you can ask. Also discuss with the financial advisor. You can also email the NHSBSA at this particular email ID with all the relevant information, so they can guide you as well. So in summary, we've discussed what partial retirement is in a way and who is eligible for this. I've also discussed what constitutes final salary, the impact of salary sacrifice scheme on final salary and its impact on annual pension and tax-free lump sum. Again, circumstances differ between individuals, so you have to discuss with the financial advisor. This presentation is just a start for you to understand that it is not too difficult to know what your pension is likely to be, what your tax-free lump sum is, how you can maximize your tax-free lump sum if you wish to, and then take it from there. The important thing is that once you take pension, it increases by, if there's index linking, it increases by CPI, and the tax-free lump sum can also be invested as appropriate. And we also discussed when to delay taking partial retirement for the 1995 scheme after the age of 60, especially if your final salary is going to bump up significantly soon. I would also suggest that you need to plan for around 2 to 5 years before you take the partial retirement to maximize your final salary and plan accordingly. Visit the NHSBSA website, look at the Members Hub partial retirement information, attend the members events, they can be quite useful. I have spent a lot of time, I think I've attended at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 members events because the partial retirement was being just introduced when I was going through this. So I spent a lot of time and also discussed with my financial advisor before coming to any conclusions. So take advice from a financial advisor as well. Thank you all for listening to this presentation. I hope it was useful. I've given various examples, and in fact, the 50K and the 100K examples I've repeated because it might apply to different groups of people. And mind you, partial retirement is available for all healthcare professionals, be they nursing staff or physiotherapists or doctors or any other healthcare professionals who were in the 1995 scheme are eligible for partial retirement. Again, please take advice from the financial advisor and discuss with the NHSBSA also. I hope this presentation was useful to you all. If you found this useful, please circulate it to your colleagues if you feel that's appropriate, so that they can also get benefit out of what I have discussed. If you have any queries, I'm sure you can ask your financial advisor and discuss with NHSBSA. Thank you once again for listening to this presentation.